Hi everyone, how you doing? It's Mark again with volume 9 of This Is How We Did It. And in this volume we're going to be doing quite a broad thematic thing to do with music synchronization in film and TV. We're also going to be focusing on this guy here called Gary Wright, with some lovely eye makeup on there, from the mid-70s Gary Wright was. And basically that was a piece of music that I Shazammed whilst watching a show called Ozark, which a lot of you may have enjoyed as well. And the reason why it became an earworm to me was because in 1989 I was a big fan of a hip-hop band called Third Base out of New York, which was Pete Nice and MC Search. And I'd never heard the sample used for a track called Words of Wisdom before. So basically, I can see I've got a poor network connection, so hopefully that'll come back on. So yeah, so Gary Wright here is where we're going to end up. But before we do that, I wanted to do a little bit of a talk about music sync, because music sync's very important. The way we enjoy everything now visually with music, and the way it goes with film and TV, is obviously something we've been born into and expect. But of course, it wasn't until 1927 that sound was used in film, in a film called The Jazz Singer. Al Jolson sings, and the very first words ever to be used in the art of film were, "Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet," which I think is quite beautiful, that those would be the first words ever to be heard. Before then, of course, you had Chaplin, comedy and expressionism being used, and they'd literally have someone at the front of the stage using a piano or a four-string quartet, and they just play along to the image of the film. Obviously, when they first saw the film, they'd have to make it up. There wasn't any score or anything. They'd just play along. Once they learned where the funny bits were, they'd do, you know, different sort of movements with the chords and everything. So quite a crazy history there. So we moved on then. King Kong got a score in that. A lot of German classical themes came in. Of course, most famously Apocalypse Now, which used Ride of the Valkyries. And it wasn't until 1968 with The Graduate where they started putting in songs into film, okay? So that's where the whole idea of music sync comes in, where you take songs from the environment and put them into... It's almost like DJing over visuals, of course, right? So The Graduate had... Simon and Garfunkel. So let's get listening, okay? Remember, I can't play very much of these songs because of the old copyright helicopter. So, to go nicely with You Ain't Heard Nothing Yet, 1968, The Graduate, we've got...
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Okay, beautiful song, beautiful vocal harmonising now. That was The Graduate, which had a top-selling album with, you know, Mrs. Robinson and all these different tracks on. And there's obviously quite an interesting history about music and film and record labels as well, because Richard Branson would not be as rich on the film The Exorcist, which was a sort of classic sort of film that you had to watch when you were a teenager. When I was a kid, and watch a lady vomiting across the room. How nice that was. So Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. Now that's 20 minutes long. It's also a brilliant piece of music, and it was used in the end scene with the priest in The Exorcist, and it led to selling 20 million albums of Tubular Bells, which gave Richard Branson, you know, the sort of the beginnings of his business, because to sell that many records means you're going to get rich, and then he made the record stores from that and everything. So to bring it a bit closer into sampling, which is where we're going to go eventually with Gary Wright, which I showed you. There's these what are they called again? Reverberary guys, two Italian guys who did spaghetti westerns, right? Now see if you can recognize this. Does that make me crazy? Indeed, that is our boy Mouse and CeeLo. So you've got that. Then, so obviously they're all films, but then you've also got the you know, themes that are used on television shows. So that's where the Ozark link comes in, which we're going to get to the sample eventually. So I went around and had a little look for some of the sort of dominating TV themes from my childhood in the 70s, and one of them is the World in Action TV theme, which well heavy. That's a heavy piece of music, and of course the World at War, which is Carl Davis. Every Sunday you'd be watching Happy Days, and then suddenly you'd see children's faces on fire on the television, and it'd be the World at War, and it was kind of the most frightening images you could see anywhere that was on that programme that they allowed to be shown in the afternoon. But the World at War, superb programme, great music from Carl Davis. And there was another programme on BBC Two called Arena, which used bits of Brian Eno. Beautiful, amazing piece of music, very simple, very gentle. That's called Another Green World. So, right, we've been on a bit of a journey there. That was beginning of film, then TV themes. So, okay, I have a good friend called Thomas Gulubich, and he was in town just last week, so I went to see him for the Music Synch AIM, the Artist Industry of Music, and basically he did a talk there, and he also married my wife and I in Los Angeles. He's a very good friend of mine, but he put all the music together for, first of all, 6 Feet Under, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul, Halt and Fire, I think it's called. Sorry, it's called something different, I can't quite remember. Anyway, he did all the music for Breaking Bad, which I know that you probably know about. And what I loved when I was watching it quite late in the game, it was only a year I started picking it up, was the way that he used music in that Breaking Bad show. If you remember when they're involved in selling methamphetamine, when everyone goes out and scores it, he uses the peanut vendor as a track. See if you can remember it. A lot of the time you'd get people who would choose sort of dark and, you know, worrying street music, but no, that's genius on lots of level, right? Where do people sell peanuts? They sell them on the street. What do people feel like when they're about to buy drugs? Well, they're going to get really high and happy. So, well, you know, it's obviously a disturbing world to end up in. So anyway, moving back into this Gary Wright track, because now we're going to do how I ended up finding out that this was through Shazam. So someone synchronized Gary Wright to the Ozark show, and basically Words of Wisdom by Third Base. Let's have a little listen to that. There you go, hard as Chinese arithmetic. That's basically where that comes from. So, there I am. That's in my head. That's in my 1989 hip-hop head. I know that break, but I'd never been told where it came from. On comes Ozark. I see it, and here's what is playing. And here we go. Gary Wright, okay, on vinyl. Go. Okay, Gary Wright killing it there on the break. Nice. I mean, look, he looks like he's gone horse riding on the moon there, the poor fella. Anyway, fashion was different there. This album's quite interesting because it's claimed to be one of the first rock albums that doesn't really use guitars. It's almost all synthesizers, so quite interesting. And the big hit on the other side was Dreamweaver, which was a #1 or #2 record in America in 1974. So, okay, we finally got round to the action. So, okay, let me just mute off all those tracks I've been playing. Yeah, I'm going to play what I've been doing. If any of you hip-hop fans know Funk Dubious, so I took Son Doobie from Funk Dubious, and I've put him over this Gary Wright sample, so let's have a blast.
Bring it up, bring it out, bring it in, bring it down, turn it up, turn it out. Well, if the triple likes hardcore, nasty, ill, filthy, not sex, but naked, bad, ill, guilty, I'm the I, porno, blow out your phone, think of one point, the mad sick, I be who I heard, black girls know my name, I said brown girls know my name. Well, it's the fatter, fake a full bust back, tempo break out the rail, rough, rocket from shaking from shaker, and the same drink it hard, hit and red, drop it, don't stop, pony, who sweet with all the topping. Red light shades of mocha. Make it more like his one cigar smoker. Bring it up.
Okay, there's the sample. Gary Wright. Bring in the drums I put in. 2 drum breaks going in now, okay? Let's build it up. They're Paul Nice drum breaks, okay? Got going on in there. 3 snare drums. Bring Funk Dubious back in.
About said smoke fills the room, choke down. How many ounces to fuck the pipe? Frankenstein, Einstein, whose man is Watson counts making raps, booby traps, I'm getting mine. Say I need the pay I paid. I need naked new hotties, put in your BI. Bring it up, bring it out, bring it in, bring it down, turn it up, turn it out. What from Dubious is all about. Bring it up, bring it out, bring it in, bring it down, turn it up, turn it out. What from Dubious is all about. Blackjacks overtake, trade, drink, and work out. No more the sun is broke, don't the jerk out. Danger, watch out.
Such a massive break, such a hell of a break. Okay, so that's Gary Wright, and that is called Love Is Alive. You can pick that up pretty cheaply anywhere. It's really quite an interesting and cool album. But I think what I was wanted to sort of get into there was the idea that I used Shazam to find that sample, and that it came from someone essentially like DJing music over a TV show. And that's what I like about the fluidity of art, you know, of sound and the emotion it gives us, and songs that it gives us, and also, you know, looking at the whole history of it and how people had to watch silent movies for so long. And then, you know, when it did come along, that, you know, a lot of soundtracks used, you know, the classic German people like Wagner, as I said before. Then songs came into it, using songs, then doing albums that had soundtracks, trying to make money off the soundtracks. You know, the fact that Richard Branson, you know, made his fortune off Mike Oldfield being involved on The Exorcist. So, yeah, it's all an interesting, interconnected history. So anyway, as you know, Mark Ray Official, Spotify, you can listen to these tracks. I put them up on there. This one's called Ozark, or Gary Wright and Funk Dubious. You'll find these tracks there. I'm going to put a link so you can get this track free to download that I've been making. It's got an instrumental and an a cappella. And as ever, thank you for watching. I know that was a bit all over the place, and I lost some live stream power there with the Wi-Fi. I have to get some walls knocked down. Big up to Thomas Gullovich, who was a great supporter of Grand Central, and thank you all for watching. It's Mark, and I'm out. Peace.